Well, good afternoon and welcome to the End Human Trafficking Workshop, a Rotary initiative. I'm Sam Thompson, president of the Rotary Club of Edina, and we are coming to you live from the Edina Country Club and also on Zoom. We have with us 75 people in the room for live and 110 people on Zoom. Last fall, we hosted our first End Human Trafficking workshop. And we realized after that we had so much more to learn. We decided that we must offer a second workshop this year, and that is why we're here today. Each year, we normally have two joint meetings with our sister club, the Edina Morningside. And we decided that this workshop, we should combine and have one of our joint meetings during this workshop. So that's what we're doing today. We have both Edina clubs here. Rotarians are people of action, and we continually look for ways to improve our communities. Rotarians listen, we learn, and we take action. And today that's what we will be doing. This will be a very powerful session. So listen, learn, and join with us in taking action to help prevent human trafficking. So before we start our panel, we want to take a few minutes and share some updates about our two clubs, what we're doing. We do a lot of projects together, and there are 8 projects that we really work together on. So I'm going to take 4, and then Margaret Johnson with Morning Club is going to take 4, and we'll tell you what we're doing. So first off, we have a virtual leadership series that we do. It's the 3rd Tuesday of every month. It goes from 6 to 7. And we invite our members to partake, but also the general public can be part of it too. And we've already had 3 sessions. The first one was teamwork, and then race and racism. And then the last one, just this last Tuesday, was adversity. And we utilize our speakers who are experts that actually give the talk. So it's been a great session for us. We have an extremely active youth program. And one program we offer is called Camp Enterprise. And we've been doing this now for 40 years. And it's a business camp for juniors and seniors in high school. And we normally get anywhere from 100 and 120 students from throughout the Twin Cities that participate in this. And last year, WCCO TV came in and filmed Camp Enterprise. And it's for the students to learn about the free enterprise system. Unfortunately, we had to cancel it this year because of COVID, but it did give us the opportunity to start a new program with Camp Enterprise, a feeder program. We're calling it Camp Enterprise Junior, and we plan to offer it next summer through Community Ed, and it'll be for 9th and 10th graders. So we're really excited about that. Mary Brindle with the Morning Club is actually taking the lead on this, so we're so excited, and thank you, Mary, for doing this. We also started this year the Edina Rotary Scholars Program, and that's with the Edina High School and Edina Education Fund. And what it does, it combines academic study with Rotary service and leadership activities. So it's actually a specialized degree that elevates the Edina High School student. And this year, it's our first year, we were hoping to get at least 20 students, and we ended up with over 30. So we're really happy with the turnout with this program. And then the 4th program that we work together with the Morning Club would be our Thanksgiving baskets. And this is the Wednesday before Thanksgiving. What we do is we assemble the big turkeys and all the fixins, and then we deliver them to those in need. And if you have not done this before, we actually meet in this room. I really urge you to be part of it. It's such a great feeling to deliver these baskets to these families that can have a nice dinner for Thanksgiving. And last year we did 85 baskets that we delivered. Now those were the 4 programs that I wanted to talk about. I also want to just mention a couple things that our club is doing. This last Saturday we had our car show, the 2nd annual car show. Huge success. It was very successful. We doubled our cars. We had 120 cars. And where's Josh? Josh Sprague right there. He's the brainchild with the car show. And he's actually up there, Mr. Microphone, over on the bottom there. He was doing great. And it's a great fundraiser for our foundation. And we have the Alzheimer's Walk which is September 26th. It's at 9:30. We meet at Centennial Lakes Pavilion. And afterwards, if you'd like lunch, it's at Pinstripes. And our gala is September 26th and the 3rd. We originally were going to have a large event. We had to scale down, so we're having smaller gatherings in members' homes. We have about 16 homes that we're going to. We're keeping the theme, which is around the world, and each home is a country, and we're going to use Zoom at the beginning to connect all of the countries and play trivia. So a couple more announcements. Please keep your masks on after lunch for the safety of others. And I want to thank Paul Peterson, who was checking temperatures with Venue Screen. Thank you so much, Paul. And now I'd like to introduce my friend and president of the Morningside Club, Margaret Johnson.
Thank you, Sam. What a great day, huh? Thank you, everybody, for coming today. I hope everybody's day is going well. And today we're here for a very serious subject, but I hope you all really learn a lot. And, hopefully we can definitely continue to decrease human trafficking in our society. So, end it. Yes, thank you, Karen. All right, so again, I'm Margaret Johnson, president of Edina Morningside. We meet in the morning, if you hadn't figured that out. And I'm here to talk about a few of the programs that, yes, again, we collaborate on a lot of things with the Edina Noon Club, and gotta say, they've been excellent partners. Here we go. First one, Youth Exchange. So many of you know that we are an international organization. We are located all over the world, have clubs everywhere. And what happens is a lot of our children get involved with the clubs through their parents, and then we have a youth exchange program with kids from other countries that'll come here, and then we'll send our children over to their country to live with their families. It's a great program. I think so. One of the best things are listening to these stories of these children. Young adults, I should say, they're in high school, when they come back. So I just have to correct everybody. Actually, we had the pictures mixed up. Ayush is the young gentleman. Rosario is the young lady. So I apologize. It was just, oopsie. So anyway, and then they got caught up in the COVID. So I hate to, be another Debbie Downer about COVID, but they got stuck here for a while longer than they should have. But, to be honest, they come to know and love the families they're with and the friends that they make. And it's really a lifelong thing. It's if you ever get a chance to chat with a youth exchange student, you'll hear the completely life-changing things that happen in their lives. So it was really neat. I just want to say, too, when we were saying goodbye to Ayush, his parents zoomed in from India during our meeting at 7:30 in the morning. So no idea what time it was there, but they were great. Okay. Next, so we again do a lot with the youth in our community. So the Rotary Club of Edina, and I know it says that it's for Edina students, but students more so college level and then past that. So my daughter, Christy Sunderman, is 26, and she is a part of Rotary. So it's for a younger population between 20 and 30-year-olds usually that still want to be active with Rotary and get involved with other people. They reached out to the Edina Chamber. I don't know if Lori Severson is here either. I don't see her in person, but on Zoom. They reached out to the Edina Chamber, and they're putting together service projects with the Chamber of Commerce, and they're calling it Party for Purpose, which I love, right? Because let's make it fun. Let's go out and have a purposeful event and service project and make it fun. So that's something else they're working on. Next, this is the Interact Club of Edina. So this, again, students in the high school mostly, and I think even maybe junior high. A lot of it does come from the parents that get them involved when they're currently serving. They get involved and they do service projects as well, plus have speakers. So they're just like little junior Rotarians learning what's what, plus amongst all their other activities. But they do hold an annual event, and it's really a lot of fun. I wish I could still skate, but I can't. Skate and polio at Braemar Ice Arena. So pay attention to that, and if you'd like more information, let us know. And last but not least, vocational happy hour. Sorry about that. Our joint vocational development series for our members is once a month, and we kind of switch back and forth between Edina Noon and Edina Morningside, who the speaker will be. The speaker comes and shares about what they do for their profession. You know, part of Rotary is founded on professionals getting together, talking about what they do, networking for business and other reasons, but then they just kind of blossomed into the service-oriented part of what they do. So we want to make sure that our members are still getting that networking opportunity. So that's what we do once a month. It had been at the Byerly's Mez, and hopefully we'll get back there soon. So, but we'll see. All right, almost done. So my club is doing a fundraiser. We do this every year, and we are selling poinsettias. All the net funds and profits will go towards our polio efforts, our ending polio efforts. And so just wanted to let you know, if you're interested, please just go to our website. Just Google edinamorningside.org, and you'll be able to see what's that. But if you're going to go buy poinsettias anyways, buy them from Rotary, you know, and make your dollars count in many, many ways. So with that, thank you for listening, and thank you so much for being here.
Okay, now Ann Platt will come up for the invocation.
Thank you. At Rotary, we are a people of action, and therefore we may ask, how do we make a difference? It starts by just starting. Help one person at a time. If we improve a child's life, we improve a family. Improve families, and we improve a village. Improve a village, and we improve a region. Improve enough regions, and we improve a country. Improve countries, and we improve the world. We will now say recite the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Rotary has a guidance of principles. We refer to it as the four-way test. Of the things we think, do, and say, first, the truth. Second,
Is it fair to all concerned?
third, fourth. Thank you.
Good afternoon. This afternoon, we're very blessed to have three incredible speakers that are working on the front lines in human trafficking. John Turnipseed, a former gang leader, pimp, drug dealer. Today, John is a community leader, a pastor, a speaker, and serves as director of the Center for Fathering and the vice president of Urban Ventures, a nonprofit set in the heart of the same Minneapolis gang territory that he once terrorized. Jessica Bartholomew is a retired police officer and has over 25 years of experience working with children, teens, and families in youth outreach, domestic and foreign missions. Since 2015, Jessica has been the executive director of ACT United. Jessica's mission with ACT is to take everything she knows about what leaves children and teens vulnerable to exploitation, the culture and spiritual dynamics that fuel a dark market for child abuse and trafficking, and use it to educate and equip communities in prevention. Jennifer Gaines considers herself to be a miracle story. She was 14 years old, a young girl when she was recruited and then trafficked into prostitution. After 28 years, she discovered a program called Breaking Free, a nonprofit that provides services for hundreds of women being trafficked and prostituted every year. They provide housing, advocacy, intensive education programs, support, and real hope to survivors. Jessica believes each day is a new beginning and every day deserves a second chance and change and overcome. Thank you.
Well, I'd like to thank the panelists for coming today. Thank everybody for joining us on Zoom and for everybody here. We're going to get to it pretty quickly. For the format today, we've asked each of our speakers to talk 8 to 10 minutes, kind of about their background, give us an idea of where they come from, what they're up to move the needle in human trafficking. And after we're done, we're going to open it up to Q&A. So those that are on Zoom, if you want to type something into the chat, Josh will pick it up, run the question over, and we'll handle as many as we can as we can at that time. So our first speaker today will be John, and if you'll take it, that'd be great. Thanks, John, for joining us.
All right, thank you for having me. I'm 66 years old, so came to Minnesota in 1960 from Selma, Alabama, sort of running away from the civil rights movement at the time. It was ugly. Got up to Minnesota, and my father, being separated from his brothers and sisters who were all Christian, churchgoers, and married, was up here alone, and he discovered alcohol. He became violent. Every time he drank, he would beat my mother. Never hit me, but I wished he would have hit me instead of my mother. And so me and my 5 little brothers, we didn't know what to do. Pretty soon he started taking money from the house so that we had no food, and I had to scavenge for food. And on one of those scavenging trips came one of the most devastating times in my life. A man down the street, as I was collecting bottles to sell, and asked me did I want a White Castle. I didn't know what a White Castle was. So he took me and he bought 6 of them, or 8 of them for $1. They were 12 cents a piece, I believe, yeah. And he said, well, you got 5 brothers and you, so this will be enough, but you can eat 2. So he took me to his house and I ate the 2 and he gave me a Coca-Cola. And then when I got ready to leave, he said, I want my hamburgers back. And I said, I ain't got them. And for lack of, I don't know, a better phrase, he took advantage of me. And that changed my life forever. But from there, I was no longer a child. I was a potential murderer. I was so angry and didn't know what to do. I had nobody to protect me, no big brothers. I was scared of the police. I was scared of white people because I came from Alabama. And so I became this kid that was just angry, and I took my anger out on other kids in the school. They didn't know why I was so angry. They called me Taz for Tasmanian Devil because I was just angry. Even people looking at me made me angry. And pretty soon a pimp in the neighborhood sort of noticed that I was just out there. I was around 10 years old, gave me my first gun and introduced me to the sex world with older women. And I ran errands for him, and I, helped him with the sex trade business, and I became immune to it. I thought that this was okay. And so by the time I was 16, I was a pimp. And I got help being a pimp by movies such as Superfly and The Mac. They made movies glorifying pimping. There was a book that came out, Pimp, The Story of My Life, that my mentor, my pimp friend, asked me to read. So by the time I'm 18, I have 5 women that are working for me, and seen nothing wrong with it. When you can convince a woman that she is the same thing as a dog, that's what pimping is about. It's not about anything else but dominating and making as much money as you can, and they're throwaway people. If one of them gets killed, they just got killed. That doesn't stop the show. You might not even go to the funeral, because they're not women, they are objects. And so now my life is just surrounded by this pimping and drug dealing. And when the drugs came along, that sort of put a dent in the pimping business, because women now were running off with the money and smoking the drugs. And it became hard to keep women together, keep your stable, as you would call it, together. I eventually fell in love with one of the girls that were working for me. And love just happened. I never fell in love before, so I don't know where it came from. And I stopped her from prostituting, because it's hard to prostitute someone that you love. It's impossible, And it took a while. I also got involved with the largest gang in the state of Minnesota, called Rolling 30s Bloods, and that was my family. When my family came up here, I was the first one up here, and I introduced them to all the evils of life, prostitution and drug dealing and gangs, and they called the National Guard in to stop my family, and they called us Murderapolis in the New York Times. That was quite an error in my life. I have 30 family members in jail for murder. So now we're rolling along, and my life, I've been in prison 3 times. I'm figuring, you know, this is gonna be my life. And the drug trade and the prostitution trade goes hand in hand. Anywhere you see prostitutes lingering, there's 2 or 3 drug dealers hanging around. Pimps are no longer a good profession because you can't make any money, so you become a drug dealer. And every time a girl jumps in and out of a car, she might jump in and out of 10 to 15 cars a day at a minimum, and you can make $200 or $300 a girl. So they're drug addicted and being pimped at the same time because the pimp has the drugs. So drug addiction fuels the desire. They can go all night. They can go without sleeping for a week. You know, they can go without eating. You don't even have a food bill anymore. And all of a sudden, to try to help the women, the state of Minnesota made it to where they wouldn't be charged. You know, they would arrest them and let them right out without having a bail or anything. They thought they were helping them. But to a pimp, that was the greatest thing in the world. I don't have to buy lawyers, I don't have to do nothing. They're seen as victims now, and which they are, but I ain't got to, you know, it's all about money. So, you know, that was happening, and as black pimps, we looked at, well, it can't be wrong because he let white pimps operate in Nevada. You know, if white pimps can operate in Nevada, why can't we operate in Minnesota? And we tried to break into the Nevada brothel trade because that's really where the police will protect you. You know, the doctors will make sure your girls are okay, and you can make money and keep it. But as an African American, we wasn't allowed in that trade, okay? That was a reserved trade, so that wealthy white males could have a place to go and not be criminalized. You know, it's the ugliest thing you know, outside of just pimping that I've ever seen. So I changed my life about 27 years ago with the help of an organization called Urban Ventures. I was facing a life sentence, and they came to my rescue. They seen something in me. And there was something in me because I had quit the pimping, I had quit the gangs, I had quit the drugs. You know, I just wanted a new life, but I didn't know how. You know, one of the things about a gangbanger and a pimp and a serial killer that's in common, they have no conscience. So you can't reason with a pimp. There's no such reasoning with them. And the young girls that you have under control, what do you get when you stop a girl from prostituting? An unemployed prostitute, because nobody will hire them. So they're sort of trapped on both sides, which is good for the pimping business. You know, you won't hire them. I can get them a job selling themselves. Usually by the time they've got into the life, their parents disown them. They have no good circle of friends, and all they have is the pimp. So it's psychologically just a trap that many women don't break out of. Now I'll tell you one thing. As I was coming up, and I'll keep track of my time, I would not try to pimp girls that had a strong father. A strong father, you know, mothers will holler and scream at you and call the police. Fathers might kill you. You know, I've had a father kick my door down and took his daughter out of my house. So I started making sure that the women I dealt with didn't have a strong father. Father absence is the #1 indicator that a child can end up in prostitution. So today I'm the campus pastor of Urban Ventures. I've completely changed my life, and I help women that I used to abuse get out of the life, and we've hired a few of them. But most importantly, we love them and let them know that they're worthwhile. Thank you.
As introduced, I'm Jessica, and I'm the Executive Director of ACT United, which is Anti-Child Trafficking United. And I'm also a retired Minneapolis police officer. I took an early retirement in 2014, and then a series of events called me back into the anti-trafficking space, but in the nonprofit sector. So what ACT United does is we work to end the sexual exploitation and trafficking of children and teens. And it's important to say both those things, sexual exploitation and trafficking of children and teens, because those are the two fastest growing crimes facing people under the age of 18 right now. Sexual exploitation taking the form of sexting or sextortion that is putting children as young as first and second grade into child pornography without their knowledge. In basic terms, sexual exploitation in that form leads to sextortion, which is the making, the sending, the sharing, distributing of sexually explicit photos and videos of minors, those that are under the age of 18. That's the fastest growing online crime right now for that age group. And then sex trafficking, which happens online and cyber trafficking, as well as in person through relationships. So we work to end both, and how we do that is in a model of prevention, because we believe that you are not going to end something by responding to it. You're going to end it by getting ahead of it, going upstream in prevention. And so we take what we know. We take the research, we take the studies, we take the survivor expertise, we take those of us that have been on the front lines for 25 years or more working in this, and we take all of that to put it into this model of prevention. If we know, as a law enforcement officer and as somebody that's worked with young people for 25 years and as a survivor of child sexual abuse within the family myself, if we know what are the precipitating factors, circumstances, and events that lead to sexual exploitation and trafficking, if we know what are those vulnerabilities, those gaps that children and young people have in their life that then become targeted by predators, why don't we go ahead of it? Why don't we identify those gaps and vulnerabilities first and fill them ourselves? Why don't we do what we need to do to rip targets off of kids' backs and fill those gaps, those vulnerabilities? And if we already know what can do that, that's exactly what we felt was best to do. So we work in this model of prevention. When we started in 2015, we started with filling gaps that were visible, that we saw from our experience in the anti-trafficking movement. Although some people had their hands on it, there was really a couple of gaps that we were seeing that really were the front lines for me and were very important if I was going to come back into this work. So the three things at ACT United that we have in our model, one is, first of all, a model of prevention, of true prevention, which goes beyond awareness, to not just make people aware of what is happening, but equip communities with the tools and the resources to help keep their children at home safe, but also to help create safe communities. And how do we connect people better together? How are all sectors working together, communicating better, supporting each other better, and have knowledge of each other is kind of the first step, so that we can create safe communities. So true prevention moves your awareness into action in those tangible, real-life steps that you as a parent or a community member or as a professional can take. So true prevention. The other thing that is in all our programs and what we do is, so far we are one of, not the only, but we are one of a very few, however, organizations that have the most representative and inclusive programs for kids that we have seen. And it was absolutely missing in 2014 and 15 in a visible way, and getting better today. But that is the fact that Sexual exploitation and trafficking affects every community. Every county in Minnesota since 2016 has seen sexual exploitation and trafficking in their court system. It affects all genders, all communities, and all ethnicities. And 36% of trafficked minors in the United States are boys or young men under the age of 18. So our programs were built to make sure that no person was ever left out, that everybody will hear their story, everybody will be represented, because if you're a young man, if you're a 10-year-old boy and you're listening to the guest speaker on exploitation come in to talk to your class, and my language is wrapped around the fact that girls are victimized and boys are only potential offenders, and you're being sexually exploited by your biological parents, which a third of trafficked minors are from their families, from their biological parents, you don't hear your story. And that furthers your isolation. That creates another barrier from you disclosing and coming forward for help. So we bring true prevention, inclusive and representation for boys, and also most importantly, and actually very exciting, is part of true prevention is also helping to empower young people, because they are truly the front line. Because they're the ones that are online and at school and in the community. They're the ones that are going to be targeted, and they're the ones that are going to be approached. So empowering our young people to advocate for themselves, their peers, and for their community at their school, their church, that is where the power in ending this is going to lie, is equipping our kids, our young people. So our programs that go into schools and churches is a prevention education program, but it has 3 steps. And that third step is a leadership track for those students that want to help become a voice and an advocate for this generation to end trafficking. And right now we have 4 interns, and I couldn't have done this if I tried and marketed my best. But we ended up with 4 interns that were all inbound calls because they had either been a part of our program in the past or heard about our program, and all 4 of these interns are 4 different age groups and represent 4 different nations of our world. So our most recent is Insia from Pakistan. So it is amazing the times that we are living in, the information that we have, and now it becomes our challenge to turn this fast, rapid information and awareness into action. The steps that I would like to leave you with that you can even take today is to be an advocate for that prevention education. One of the biggest vulnerabilities that young people have is no prevention education. The truth about sex trafficking and exploitation is the #1 pathway to get there, to get from just being a kid to being an exploited or trafficked kid, is building relationships. So if we don't understand that the premise and the basis leading to that, although kidnapping does happen, it absolutely does happen to bring somebody, a person, into trafficking, the #1 pathway is relationships. It's building those relationships. So we have to teach kids about what are healthy relationships, what are those signs, indicators, red flags of people that might be moving you toward abuse, control, exploitation, and even trafficking. So if they don't know the signs and indicators, they're waiting to be grabbed in the ramp, when in all reality they're online in their bedroom in Minnetonka, Minnesota, talking to their predator right now. Because 80% of trafficked teens today met their predator online, 80% met their predator online as an initiating contact. So bringing prevention education to our kids is so important, and you can learn more about that program. I think Renee's put out information, but with Act United. But also talk with your kids. Have those conversations in your home. Every age is age appropriate for a conversation about how to stay safe online. If you need help starting that conversation, there's organizations like the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children that have animated videos to help start the conversation at home for young people. We also started our Little Me Big Future preschool series that is a 7-minute or less video that you can watch with your littles to have those conversations, and also for older teens and also for adults and professional programs. So true prevention is going to equip the whole community and empower kids and youth. That is what is going to move the needle and end sexual exploitation and trafficking. I'll leave you with one fact that just popped into my head that is so important when it comes to awareness piece. The Minnesota Department of Health just put out and had a press conference in January, I was there, that their 2019 high school student survey came back and found that our Minnesota high school kids that are sitting in class that took this survey that day found that 5,000 students reported being a victim of at least one form of sexual exploitation. 5,000 Minnesota high school students, keyword, still in school. Often can be trafficked after school, weekends, holidays, taken out of school for a sick day, but these kids aren't gone. Not all of them have disappeared. They are still in our churches and in our schools. So prevention education is going to reach those kids before, but also giving them the courage to come forward if they are already in a situation that is harmful.
Hi, my name is Jennifer Gaines. I was going to do a PowerPoint, but I actually don't need it now. My bio kind of says it all. I do consider myself a miracle story. I was recruited at the age of 14. I got mad at my mom and ran away from home, and I met my trafficker. And I spent 28 years being trafficked all over the United States. I even went to Ireland a couple times. And I just want to say that I agree that anybody can be trafficked. I've seen all kinds of different situations. I spent 8 years working as an advocate at Breaking Free. About 10 years ago, I was able to get out of the lifestyle when I found Breaking Free. And at that time, I didn't think I would ever escape my lifestyle. I was convinced to the core of my being that I was going to die in prostitution. I didn't think I would ever get out, but I did. So we need programs like Urban Ventures and Breaking Free. You know, back then, nobody was talking about this issue, and I'm so glad that there's groups like this and people talking about this issue today, and you're hearing more and more about sex trafficking, and everybody's taken an interest, and that's wonderful. And but as I sit back and I was listening to John, talking about just the classism and racism, even in trafficking, white pimps, black pimps. Yes, it's true, there's sexism and racism and prostitution, and that exists. And I was listening to Jessica talking about the internet sexual exploitation. I've kind of reflected on how prostitution the internet has just had sex trafficking just explode. When I first got recruited, there was all this street prostitution, and then I remember the 90s, escort business kind of started happening, and now there's the internet. And when I got asked to speak here today, I asked, what am I going to be speaking on? And they said, well, just talk about what's new in sex trafficking today and what's happening since COVID. And so I thought, okay, I'll just talk to some of my friends that are still in the life. And so I did. And I said, how has COVID kind of impacted, the lifestyle now? And some of the girls that were still in the life said, oh, it hasn't impacted us at all. Some of these guys out here, they just don't care, Some of them, you know, are still coming to see us. It hasn't impacted us at all. Some of them lost their jobs. They're not working, so they're not spending as much money. But some of the girls said it did impact them. And then I kept getting referred to this site. They kept talking about this new site out there called OnlyFans. And since, so then I started doing more research and Googling, what is OnlyFans? What is this site called, OnlyFans? And since COVID, the site called OnlyFans, their popularity increased 75%. Has any of you in here heard about a site called OnlyFans? Raise your hand. I bet you if you go home and talk to your family members or even your teens, they've heard about it. It's extremely popular. OnlyFans is a subscription-based site where people can post any type of content they want. There's pretty much no restrictions for posting any kind of fetish, and you could use direct messaging for any type of content, bestiality, child porn. There's no restrictions on this site. So then I started talking to my 13-year-old daughter who knew all about it, and her friends knew all about it. And through direct messaging, you get paid to post all these pictures. And I said, well, how could a trafficker make money off of this site? I don't understand if there's no touching going on. And all the answers I got, it's easy, because traffickers have groups, and they can have groups of different girls who just log into his account, and all this money goes directly to his account. So it just led me to think about, wow, you know, so as we get smarter about trafficking, and every time we think we got something figured out, prevention and, you know, awareness and how to keep our children safe, there's a trafficker out there who's getting smarter too, you know. So it's almost exhausting, but we can't get tired. We can't get discouraged, you know, because again, just like my bio said, you know, I consider myself a miracle story, and there's other people, there's survivors out there who we got to keep fighting this battle, you know. Sexual exploitation is huge. This is a huge problem, and the internet is, it's a beast, you know, but it's all in our families. What are your ideas about what's okay and in your home, your morals? What are you teaching your children about what kind of music's okay to listen to? Not only what are you teaching your girls, what are you teaching your boys? You know, it all starts in our music, our videos, our movies, and so on and so on. And I could just go on and on talking about this issue. I've only got a little bit of time, but I'm gonna leave it at that. And thank you for your time.
Thank you. So we're going to open it up to questions, and I think we have some questions about what's happening. Jenny, I just appreciate what you just said. Josh has just handed me a bunch of them. Thanks, Josh. This subject is close to my heart. My sister runs an organization called ProtectMeProject.org. Many of you know that. I've served on her board for the last 8 years, and we support her work. And it's basically kind of what Jessica said, it's education, because a child has no idea what's right and what is wrong, and they're 3 or 4 years old. And to be able to educate and get a good start and to know when something's not appropriate is just so critical. You know, each of you are here from different perspectives, and so we'll open it up to questions. The first one Josh just gave me on from one of our Zoom attendees is, what are the tech giants like Google and YouTube and Apple doing to prevent the spread of child pornography? So does anybody got any ideas on that as far as if they are doing anything to prevent it?
You got to remember, those organizations are in the business of making money. they're not going to cut off 10%, 20% of their traffic. You know, traffickers are online all day, all the time. You know, that's the way they sell Viagra and all the other kinds of things that are about sex and everything. So I've never heard of a campaign from any one of them that meant something. You know, like, this is what we're going to stand for. And every time they get their hand slapped, they just don't worry about it. You know, so they're not doing enough.
I just saw, it seems like every time like there's a new movie out called Cuties, and there's all this conflict there about whether or not it's pedophilic, you know, borderline pedophilic, but it's like all that media attention almost makes people watch it more.
Right. And just one more thought. If you have DirecTV, if you scroll down, you'll see some nasty, nasty stuff. You know, this is on DirecTV, Xfinity, or whatever they call it. You know, all the apps that come into your house have an adult X-rated site somewhere.
Any movement of any needle involving money is going to be consumers. It's the consumer, the watcher, the viewer, the person who orders that is going to move the needle, because they're not going to lose profit until we stop watching and we stop buying and we stop subscribing. So you are the giants. You are the tech giants that are going to move the needle on that.
Anybody in our audience here? Okay.
Hi, thanks so much for being here. My question is for Jennifer. So when you were in this lifestyle, did you own a home, or did you have your own space, or were you and other girls who were doing this together? Were you living together? Or so I'm just curious, because when we say, you know, you're exploited and you get to trafficking, where are these children going? I mean, where are they going to? And when you said, sir, when you were talking about women getting in and out of the car, like, are they going back to their pimp and then like reporting back and then getting back into another car? If you could maybe expand on that, please.
So I spent 28 years in prostitution. I had 4 different traffickers. Sometimes I was homeless. Sometimes I lived in a penthouse. Sometimes I was living in a crack house. Sometimes a hotel. This depends on which day you caught me. Does that make sense?
Because it's the person who is in charge of you, or you're living with that person?
So, I mean, there's just good days and bad days in the lifestyle. I don't know if that makes sense, but, you know, there's no stability, you know? There were times in my lifestyle where I did own a home, you know, but I didn't necessarily really own anything. I was under the power and control of my trafficker. So even if something was in my name, trust and believe he had power and control over that. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
And you asked about women jumping in and out of cars. The women had a quota. They had to make a certain amount of money. And it didn't, we had a saying, this is going to sound sort of rude, I don't care if you have to kill your own baby and sell its blood, I have to have my money. That was, and the women understood that. We didn't care that you got beat up or that you're on your monthly. It did not matter. And getting in and out of cars, yeah, you had to remember that with drugs, you can work all day, all night, you know, 3 o'clock in the morning, 6 days, until you just fall out. Then we let you rest for a day until you woke up, and then you were back to work.
The one thing I just want to add, because that question sounds so much like community, right? Like, where and what is the front line? Will we see this? And if we do, where will we see this? And it's kind of a community question to me. And why should the average person or the average business owner attend a human trafficking seminar and get educated and consider education for your staff? About 48,000 reports of human trafficking come into the national hotline every year. The top 2 venues are the hotels or hospitality industry, massage businesses that are right next to the antique shop, right next to the coffee shop on Main Street America in every small town that we have. A lot of these kids are still in school. One of my cases as an investigator was a 12-year-old girl who was still going to school being trafficked by her 24-year-old stepbrother from home. And she would go to school Monday through Friday, and she would be trafficked in the hotels around Minnesota every weekend after school and every holiday in MEA. So the front line of this and the eyes and the ears are really going to be everybody. One of our survivor colleagues that we work with who's become a friend, he's a male survivor of childhood trafficking and sexual exploitation, and he told 10 people before age 12 that he was being sold by his family and nobody believed him, and of those 12 included the doctor, the pediatrician, the ER nurse, and a teacher at school. So everybody, every profession, every community member can bring in a workshop or a training to know what are the signs and the indicators for your field, your profession, your community, and then importantly, if you see it, what you can do about it.
Thank you all for coming here today. It's really helpful for all of us, I think. I was informed that California enacted some laws recently that basically have decreased penalties for consensual sex with a minor, and I'm wondering if you can expound on that a little bit. And is that something that indicates that states are sort of throwing in the towel and making this legal, or what's your reaction to that?
Thanks, Mike. I want to mention that, yeah, what that law, if I understand it correctly, allows for an adult to have sexual relationships with a minor without any repercussions legally if it's consensual. So that means, and it's a 10-year spread, so that that's correct, so that if you're 24, you can have sexual relationship with a 14-year-old if it's consensual. So I'm just kidding. Well, I believe that, I don't know if you can speak to that, if anybody has heard this law that just came up. I think it just passed within the last couple of weeks.
It's State Bill 145.
It's what?
It's State Bill 145, I think.
State Bill 145 in California. And it did, I believe it did make it through the, and we got a ton of questions, but I don't know if you guys have heard about this at all, or read about it, or any comment on it. It's just shocking to me.
I heard about it, I just think it's terrible.
Yeah, I heard about it, seen it, read it, and that's exactly what it does, is it lowers the age of consent. And so if you're 14 years old and the person that you are in a sexual relationship with is within that 10-year span, which would make you 14 and 24, that a 14-year-old can consent to that sexual interaction, and you will also, what it took away was being registered as a sex offender. It moved that law in the standard that you need to reach to be a registered sex offender. So that's what that law changed, and it's always important to be aware of and stay on top of these types of things that are happening. We have things that are moving through our house here in Minnesota as well. So being aware of those things and what is happening, and taking, your say, your voice, will matter when enough people have something to say. In general, I will just say my opinion is this, that we are moving toward making sex with children okay. And we're moving toward a society and a culture that is sexualizing children and removing the stigma of it, removing the penalties for it. And we're watching it unfold layer by layer right in front of our eyes. And so we need to hop in. And you know, if you've been alive long enough, you've said there's no way that's going to happen. How many conversations have we been? There's absolutely no way we'll ever see that. And now here we are, where a movie like Cuties on Netflix, which if that would have been done in a home somewhere without a camera crew, would have been felony child pornography, felony trafficking, and those parents would have been facilitating the sexual exploitation of a child. But instead, because it's a Netflix movie, it's available for everybody to see. People were able to film it. Producers were able to be there with 11-year-old girls that were topless and doing sexual acts. And my favorite thing I've heard from them is this. It actually is to show what is happening out there and to discourage the sexual exploitation of children. So why don't you watch it and decide for yourself? You betcha. No, I'm not going to watch it. No, my money's not going to go there. No, my eyeballs are not going to go there, because I am not going to re-exploit a child to prove what I already know, which is any lascivious, any sexual act of a person under the age of 18 or any nudity of a child is sexual exploitation, and it's a felony. And I don't need to watch it to find out.
Thank you. Question online. I work in an emergency room. What would you like to? I work in an emergency room. What would you like to tell me that you wish I would know if you were here to be seen in the ER? So, just wondered if you had any thoughts on that.
Can you repeat that one more time?
I work in an emergency room. Now, this isn't me. This is someone online. Okay. I have a friend that works in the emergency room. What would you like to tell me that you wish I would know if you were to be seen in the ER? In other words, they sometimes can't ask you questions, some questions, but if you were in the ER and you were in the life, is there anything that you would want to share with that person in the ER that you wouldn't have, maybe?
Or what questions should they be asking? What should they be looking for?
Well, traffickers always want to stay in the room. You know, they maybe ask them to leave the room so you can ask the victim questions.
Thank you. Next question online. Jennifer, how did you get out of the lifestyle?
Well, can I just be really transparent?
Please.
I did it through saying the salvation prayer. So I did it with God, and of course the help of, good programs like Urban Ventures and Breaking Free. Those were the first two programs that I found. And just a lot of really good people that came into my life and taught me how to do things, and I asked for a lot of help. And I was just in a place that I was really teachable, and I was determined to get out. Probably because I'm oppositional and somebody told me that I would never get out, and I decided, yes, I will.
What an incredible story. Tell us a little bit about your organization and what you do currently, Jennifer.
So I resigned from Breaking Free about a year ago after I lost my son Devin, who was killed in a car accident from drinking and driving. And I opened some sober homes for women with addiction issues. And so now I got 2 sober homes in the Minneapolis area, and just never thought that would even be possible, but yeah. So now I have 22 beds available for women who are fighting addiction issues, and I'm a little different than most sober homes, because if you are also a victim of sex trafficking, I'm going to prioritize you, because we know that addiction and sex trafficking go hand in hand. So, because you can't talk about sex trafficking when you're in treatment, You would think that you could talk about that kind of stuff in treatment, but as soon as you say the prostitution word, that judgment comes in the room, and you've got that big scarlet letter on your forehead. But anyway, so at my sober homes, I actually have house managers, and both of my house managers were victims of sex trafficking.
Wow. And I think we've got literature on the tables here in the room on the organizations and kind of what you're doing and what you're about. So, anybody else in the room with a question? Woosh, Woosh, call me on the.
It appears to me that the more vulnerable the victims are, this industry thrives. I know of many women who fell trapped to this industry because they violated immigration law when they entered the country, and they came from a poor country anyhow, and they paid a lot of money to middlemen, and then they don't even speak the language of English and whatnot, so they're very, very vulnerable.
Yeah.
So even if they want to get out of the system, they cannot. So I wonder, you can help those people, and how you can help.
So we actually had a case like that once at Breaking Free. There was a group of women who didn't speak the language, didn't have documentation, and they were, something happened during some type of raid at some type of brothel situation, and they were in our program they had to wait too while the case was being resolved before they could go back home. And we were able to help them at Breaking Free while that process was happening. So places like Breaking Free can help.
All right, I just want to answer that question. I went to Kenya, Africa, of course, and we found out in a group of people from Urban Ventures that girls were encouraged when they got their menstrual cycle to have sex with a boy that could buy them pads. And that's how they would, every month, little boys or men would be waiting around to do that with these girls, so they could not go to school without pads. And so there was an organization that we joined called Days for Girls that provides free, reusable stuff for women so that these girls didn't have to sell themselves. There's sometimes just basic things you can do. And I don't know about, why the immigration laws, I don't know, we have to maybe do something about them so women don't have to. Maybe it's just for women, I don't know. But you put people in desperate situations, desperados will come around them.
We have a question back here.
First off, thank you for presenting. So my question is, what are some signs that you might see in the community? And the thing I've been thinking about as you're all talking is, these are very blatant cases of things happening. What are some passive signs, though, that you might see in a teacher, someone that's a trusted adult that you guys have either picked up on or could give kind of as warning signs to look out for, besides, I guess, open communication?
I would look for, as a parent, I would look for people that take an interest in my child without me asking them to. My high school counselor was indicted, for taking pictures of us in the shower room. And he used to take us over his house and let us spend the night and stuff. I didn't know he was taking pictures of us in his shower and stuff. And he was caught and prosecuted. But be careful. When people show an interest in your child, you should show an interest in them, okay?
Yeah, I would say that is probably the first thing in the school setting and the church setting that I would bring up, which is those individuals, those adults that seem more comfortable, more engaged with, more interested in relationships with children than with people their own age. You'll find they're quick to volunteer, they're very helpful, they're glad to help with rides because you're so busy. They're glad to take up the slack to help you out with your kids. And that would probably be in those relationship settings. And people really need to have policies in place in the work setting, in your youth organizations or any youth service structures that you have. What are those policies that are in place, not only to protect kids, but to protect the staff and the mentors and the pastors that are working with kids? Really know best practices for your industry, implement them, and follow them, like be accountable to them. So many times I see policies, but they were not followed, and it led to harm either to the staff member or to a young person. And then there's industry-specific signs to look for, whether you're in a hotel or a business in a strip mall. There's different indicators there, and for young people it can be different, but one of the things we tend to notice right away is just a change in behavior. Just this sudden change in behavior, in interactions, in how they interact with the family and their friends, moving from always hanging out or being involved to less involvement, more isolation, paranoid, fears. Maybe they start alcohol and drugs, or they increase in alcohol and drugs. Looking for those kinds of changes, and the depression and anxiety, and seeing those things, a change in appearance. Teenagers change appearance often, so that's not the only thing you should be looking for. So to come home with pink hair, new tattoo, so did I, and so maybe not that, but you look for a couple of different things, and you really can have those open, just honest, non-judgmental conversations.
Jenny, did you want to address that too, or no?
Okay, no, thanks.
Okay, Bill?
Thanks. As others have said, thanks for being here this afternoon. Question about the police departments of our cities. Historically, my limited, naive understanding of this concept is that the police have been there to step in and reduce or stop prostitution. Is that true or not? And what's going on today with our police departments? And are they focused on so many other things that they don't have time for this? Or what's currently happening? What's the past, present, and what's the future on the major police departments in our significant cities?
So I think that in the past, we'll start there, the police used to really interrogate women in prostitution, as far as I'm concerned, almost re-victimize us. Can I say that? Police used to set us up, kind of make us be scapegoats, use us as snitches, put us in very dangerous situations, because they know that women in prostitution can get indoors that they can't get into. I've been pressured to, tell on your trafficker, we're going to take away your children. Get us into this dope house, or we're going to put you in jail, blah, 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 blah. So then there was a shift in the attitude when sex trafficking became such a hot topic, and they started seeing women in prostitution as victims. And then, they started having more empathy for the women in prostitution. And then now, like John was saying, they started letting women go. They stopped arresting the women in prostitution. And that's great, they're not arresting us anymore, but now women aren't getting services either. And sometimes, it takes going to jail for women to get the help that they need. Sometimes it took me going to jail to say, oh, okay, I think I need to go to treatment, or it took a judge to send me to treatment to get the help that I need. So it's a little bit of a double-edged sword there. Does that make sense?
One of the questions online, thank you, Jennifer. Can you comment on how boys experience human trafficking as well?
Two of the most courageous, amazing people that I've gotten to know are two male survivors, and we have been working together on a campaign to help, elevate their voice and awareness, and have, inclusive resources for male survivors as well. It's very similar in the how, through relationships, leading to control and abuse, and then exploitation and trafficking. The two male survivors that we work with and know very well were both trafficked by their biological mothers and fathers for family trafficking. There is a market for boys. I do know from research and the buyers who buy boys or young men for sex trafficking that it is not a sexual orientation issue. It is a control and opportunity and gratification issue. When 36% of trafficked minors in the United States are boys, and yet the majority of our materials and our billboards and our pamphlets in the ER and all the places that somebody looking for help might glance to grab something, when the majority of it is all oriented toward the women and girls, that leads to some of the barriers that they're experiencing with disclosing. Some of those barriers that they have told us, and that we're working to get this information out, is some of the barriers that males experience is that males are not victims. There's a really difficult time reconciling even within yourself in a culture that says men or boys are strong and powerful and the leaders and patriarchs and they control the world, and yet you have been a victim of sexual assault and exploitation. And it's really hard to reconcile masculinity and victimization. And that becomes a barrier. And when society has kind of taught you that and believes the same thing, then it's a barrier to disclose to others. And another thing very common hindering disclosure and getting help is the assumption that the sexual assault of a young man or a boy is a sexual orientation issue, that either it's presumed that they are gay or that they exhibited some sort of signs of being gay, and that's why they were targeted for sexual assault. And for the life of me, I can't wrap my head around that at all, because I'm thinking, but what if you are gay? What does that even mean then? Sexual orientation has nothing to do with the sexual assault or the sex trafficking of our young men. And the other thing they say why it's hard to come forward is they already know. There's not a lot of believability, support, or resources available to them. So why am I going to go through the trauma, the vulnerability of reliving this and disclosing this when I know you don't even have resources to help me? So we have a class on it. I'm sure others have a class, or you can find other male survivor-led organizations on our website as well and connect with them for any learning opportunities too.
Are we aware of what the impact with COVID has been as far as an increase in all this nonsense that we're talking about? I mean, what's the barometer like out there with
The
COVID?
barometer is we are in the perfect storm, leaving the absolute open door to predators right now and to these crimes and issues. In the first month of COVID lockdown, shelter in place, whatever we want to call it, within the first month of March, the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children had 2.1 million reports of online child sexual exploitation. That was a 106% increase from previous years in March. And the RAIN, which is the National Hotline for Sexual Assault, as soon as everybody got locked down on COVID and civil unrest started, they had an increase in phone calls from minors under the age of 18 who had been sexually assaulted. And in the first time in their history, they're seeing these numbers from minors calling the hotline. 79% said, I'm in lockdown with my perpetrator or trafficker right now. So we are seeing a definite increase because predators, our children are online for e-learning, they're online for their social interactions, they're online to feel any connection to anybody right now. Guess who else is online? Predators are online. So we're definitely seeing it in the numbers reflected.
Johnny, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, I wanted to answer a question about males. I don't know if you noticed that there's an advertisement running about the Boy Scouts. You know, that was them little boys. There's the Catholic Church just settled a huge, that's the little boys, you know. We make it seem like it's, the little boys are not having a problem, but let me just tell you, it was invaluable to have a young boy in your stable. Invaluable, because there's some men that will pay a lot of money for a young boy. And guess what? Young boys don't get pregnant and they won't tell, okay? So in Minnesota, in New York and Chicago, there's the Minnesota Strip, where girls specifically from Minnesota had a place because we were seen as wholesome. If you got a young farm girl or a young girl from Edina and stuff that speaks to Queen's English and is refined and everything, that's a gold mine, you know. Then young boys and stuff, the richer the family they come from, the more, you know, you build the history of them and the way they act and everything. So young white women were the most cherished group, followed by young white boys. I'm just saying, but it was dangerous because if you got caught and stuff, you're going to suffer a heavier penalty if it was you have a young black girl, okay? So young black girls were seen as different, and they paid less for them.
Racism in classes and prostitution. That was one of the classes that we actually taught at Breaking Free.
Thank you for your comments. We've run out of time. Renee Harberts is going to come and give our closing remarks. Renee has chaired our task force to put this together and worked tirelessly for the last year with our committee. And if you're on our committee, if you'd stand, it'd be great. If you've been standing here. Thank you. Thank you. Renee chaired this event last year as well, and thank you on behalf of our committee for your leadership. I know this is a important issue to you, and you've worked tirelessly to put it together. So, Renee.
Thank you, John. You know, I always get emotional whenever I have to do this. I just feel like there's so many thank yous today. So first of all, thank you, John, for being a wonderful moderator. John gives tirelessly to Rotary, and we would not be able to do this without his help. And as always, he does a wonderful job. Then I want to thank our two presidents, our two club presidents, Sam and Margaret. They so graciously gave over their meeting time to allow us to have this workshop today, so thank you. And then, hey, our panelists. I don't even know what to say, you guys. We had the dream team. You are the best. Thank you so much for your time, for coming to share your knowledge, your wisdoms, and your heartfelt stories. Thank you. You made this very real for us. I can't tell you how invaluable that is. And then thank you to all of our wonderful audience that's here today. Thank you to all of our Zoomers. I think we have about 100 Zoomers, so thank you so much for taking the time and doing the emotional work that it takes to come to a workshop like this. It's not an easy conversation. So I can't tell you how much we appreciate your just taking time and energy to engage in the conversation. And I'm sure that now, since you've all heard some distortions, or heard some more about the realities of human trafficking, and some people call it slavery, modern slavery. So now that you've heard a little bit more about it, made it a little bit more real, I'm sure a lot of you are asking, we're people of action, right? What steps can we take? What can we do? On your tables in yellow, there is a list. Please take it home with you, read it. It's a list of 10 action steps. They're easy ones, you guys. There's things you can go home today and do, tomorrow, tonight. And then like John said, I've been involved in this and educating myself about human trafficking for probably 4 years. I'm sorry, you guys. I just want to share 2 things that I think are the most important. I don't know why this is doing this to me right now. But the first thing I think that you all need to do is to learn. And we started that today. We took a step forward. We listened to these folks share their hearts with us. But I encourage you to all go home and learn more and do research. Please go to their websites. Go to each one of their websites. They each have much more information on their websites. They have a wonderful series about online internet safety to talk to your kids and for parents to learn. So please go there, continue your education. And then the other thing that to me, I think that we need to share the story. So often the media is the one that brings our attention to social issues. And in my opinion, the media has been rather uninvolved. So it's up to us to make this issue be aware. It's up to us to talk to our friends, to talk to our families, to talk to our kids, to get involved in our organizations, maybe our churches, have other workshops, but it's up to us to spread awareness. And maybe we even go to the media and we ask the media to get involved and to have them call more awareness. We are aware of many, many issues, but this issue kind of seems to slip by us. So you guys, thank you for being here. Thank you for letting us do this, and many blessings to your day.
Well, hard to follow that, but let me thank you, Renee, for your passion and putting this together and letting me be a part of it with you. And just a final thank you to you guys, John, Jessica, and Jennifer, for coming here and sharing. You know, these are stories that are very close to you, and only by you speaking them to us do we really get to understand the problem and start to take action. So thank you guys so much. It's not talked about enough, and so this is very important to me and to everyone here. And I'm sure we're all going to take away something that we will use in our lives. So thank you so much. From literacy and peace to water and health, Rotary is a global network of 1.2 million problem solvers who unite to take action to create lasting change to better our world. In honor of the presentation from you guys, we'll make a donation to the Sheridan Story, an organization focused on providing weekend and other food gap programs to over 10,000 children in the Twin Cities and metropolitan areas. So thank you so much, guys. Round of applause.
With that, it's time to adjourn the meeting, and I'd like to leave you with a quote. Dare to enter the darkness to bring another into the light. Tony Kerwin. Meeting adjourned.